thanks for listening to the Quality Hub, chatting with ISO experts. I'm your host, Xavier Francis, and today I'm here with the illustrious Suzanne Strasser, VP of Consulting and Development. Glad you could join us again.
Wow, illustrious. That's a new one.
Yes, well, you're a regular, so you are absolutely illustrious. So glad to have you again today, and we're going to talk about the PDCA cycle, which I know is something near and dear to your heart.
Yes.
But also how it applies to ISO 9001. But before we dig into that, let me ask you a question. What's your favorite place to go on vacation?
Typically the beach.
The beach?
You know, I love Cape May. I love Marco Island, Florida, you know, that sort of thing. I am thinking, and I can say this out loud and that'll force me to do it. I'm thinking about going on a solo tour to Ireland.
Ooh, that would be great. And you're wearing green today, so that really fits.
I mean, you're still with a group, but, you know, you get to be on your own and
maybe hit a couple pubs. Have to. Well, that is cool. You know, my favorite place is Universal in Orlando, which I could be happily discussing in great detail. That would take more than 3 podcasts, but we don't have time for that today. And hopefully we will, though, get to Ireland.
That could be a whole series of podcasts, you know, Universal tips.
Oh, my gosh. Yes. Maybe I should do that on my side. Yeah. Yeah, you never know. I love the place. I've been there too many times.
Yeah.
No, I've not been there too many times. I've just been there a lot. But anyway, we're here to talk about the PDCA cycle. So first off, let's just start with the obvious question. What is PDCA and where does it come from?
Well, sure. So just to spell it out, it's Plan, Do, Check, Act.
Okay, that's the PDCA.
PDCA. It's also known as the Deming cycle, which is from the famous, illustrious Dr. W. Edwards Deming, who was a quality guru, or the Shewhart cycle. So Walter Shewhart, both quality gurus, actually. And it's really kind of a 4-step iterative method, hence the cycle, right?
Yep.
And it's used for process improvement, problem solving, but it really provides more of a structured approach to organizations to continuously improve their operations, their products, their services.
Okay.
And if you've been in quality as long as I have, you know that almost all problem-solving processes are based on this, and that many other quality tools fit into this framework too. And, you know, if you haven't been in quality, you may say, well, this is really what I do because it's common sense.
Yeah, it's just more of a formalized way of,
Yes.
You can follow it and you're not just organically doing it.
Yes.
So you mentioned PDCA stands for Plan, Do, Check, Act. Can you take us through the steps?
Sure. You know, it's funny because Deming, you know, he was a grumpy old man, but he was brilliant. He actually thought the check should be study.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But let's kind of walk through what each step in the cycle really means.
All right. So the first one's plan.
Yeah, plan. So that's kind of self-explanatory. You're going to plan, right? But so you identify and define the problem or the improvement opportunity.
Okay. That's a neat side, not just if it's a problem, but an improvement opportunity.
That's exactly right. Yep. And then you set your objectives and goals for what you need to achieve, right? Then you look at your current situation, maybe determine some root causes, which is a whole nother podcast, right? Yes. And then you develop your plan with your actions and time frames to kind of address the problem or to achieve the goals that you intended. Okay.
So you're actually planning what you're going to look at.
Yes.
Which I think a lot of us don't. We just jump in.
And that's a big misstep, right?
Yeah. We we're going to look at this.
Yep.
Well, we haven't planned on what we're going to look at or how we're going to look at it.
And so one example might be to analyze your customer complaints and to set a goal to improve your product delivery times. Maybe people are complaining about that.
Okay. So the next step is do.
Right. Which means go try stuff.
Okay.
So, you know, those steps would be to maybe implement the plan on a small scale, like a pilot or a trial. Then execute your planned actions and document what you find, you know, observations, results, issues that you encounter, that sort of thing. Because it's a pilot, it's a test.
Right.
And then make sure people are trained and resources are in place to carry out the plan that you have. Okay.
And that's a good point, because if you're just doing a trial, you know, you might realize, my gosh, this takes a lot of time, or a lot of, you know, this is going to take a long time to study if we do it this way.
Yep.
So maybe you make some changes to your plan.
Right. So one example here might be then, you know, test your new delivery schedule with a smaller group of customers. Okay.
Now, I know this is kind of off topic, but you probably should tell your customers that, hey, we're
absolutely, you know, communication is
communicate.
Vital.
Hey, we're making some changes. It might be, you okay with being part of that?
Yes. Yep.
All right. So check or evaluate. He wanted to use study.
Yes. So the steps in this case would be monitor and measure the results of the actions that you implemented when you hit the do phase.
Right.
Then compare your results to your expected outcomes. Make sure your objectives were met.
Gotcha.
Look at any differences or deviations or trends or unexpected findings. That happens, right?
Yeah.
So our example would be then to go review the data to see if your delivery times have improved and then analyze your customer feedback from that pilot test.
Right.
So here's how you can see why Deming wanted this phase to be called study. So it's really more than just checking quickly. It's really analyzing the results and then determining if you're making this change or starting again with another experiment.
Right.
That's why it's a cycle too. You can at any point you can kind of go back through to the drawing board.
That's a good point where, it's a cycle itself, but if you get to do or check, we need to make some changes, you can go back and adjust your plan.
Exactly right. Yep.
Well, that's really, really useful. So once you get through all that, let's say, for example, it went well.
Yep.
Everything went swimmingly. And what do you do after that?
So then it's act, which also we say make permanent. Okay. So based on your findings from the check phase, you decide if you need to make any adjustments. And if it worked well, then standardize it, document it, train people, implement it across the organization, beyond your pilot, for example.
So you're really developing your process at that point for a larger scale, correct?
Yes. Okay. And then if you identified any issues, make your changes, repeat the PDCA cycle if you need to, right? As we said.
Yep.
So our example here would then be roll it out, your improved delivery schedule company-wide or refine your approach based on lessons learned, that sort of thing.
Yep. Well, and that certainly all makes sense. I mean, it's a great way to handle things. You probably do this, like we said, a little bit organically, but having it broken down, you might less likely for you to forget something within a step or whatever. Now, how does all this relate to ISO? Because that's kind of what we want to know here, since we're talking about 9001.
Well, so as we've said, the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle is a foundational framework for continual improvement, right, in quality management. And so it is directly aligned with the ISO 9001 quality management system standard.
Okay.
And partly because ISO is based on principles of consistent improvement, customer satisfaction.
Yeah. We've talked about continual improvement a lot.
Right. So PDCA provides a structured approach to achieve these objectives, right? And in fact, there's a figure in the introduction of the actual ISO 9001 standard that depicts all this. So we can talk about here, how they align exactly.
Okay. So how does plan align with the 9001 standard?
Sure. So remember, we're saying identify objectives, establish processes, plan resources to achieve your desired outcomes, right? Plan. So it focuses on setting goals, analyzing your current situation, identifying risks and opportunities, determining necessary action. So for 9001, of course, we have clause 4, which is the context of the organization. So that's where you're understanding all your internal and external factors, your stakeholders, your requirements.
Right.
Clause 5, leadership, is where you establish your quality objectives and you align them with your organization's purpose.
And that's probably where you're going to put out your quality policy.
Yes. And then clause 6 is about planning. So that, of course, fits into plan, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at risk-based thinking, setting your quality objectives, planning actions. So those clauses fit directly into the plan phase.
Okay. What about the do phase?
Okay. So this is where we're implementing our plan processes and executing them. So for 9001, it would be clause 7, which is our support clauses about providing resource, providing training and infrastructure.
Right.
And then clause 8, which is operation, which is your kind of do phase in the standard, right? So you're executing those planned processes and delivering your products and services to meet your customer requirements.
Absolutely. So we planned it, now we're doing it.
Yep.
What clauses talk about check?
So checking, again, is to monitor and measure your processes against your objectives and ensure they meet your requirements, and analyzing your data and reporting on performance. So clause 9 is about performance evaluation. So monitoring, measurement, analysis, evaluation of processes, customer satisfaction, conducting internal audits, management review.
So many things for you to check within that 9001 framework.
Yep.
What about ACT?
So this is where we implement those actions to improve our performance permanently, correct issues, enhance our processes, that sort of thing. So in ISO speak, it's clause 10. It's about improvement.
Okay.
So that's corrective actions, identifying opportunities for improvement, implementing changes, all that fun stuff.
Wow. I do remember seeing that PDCA cycle in the actual standard. And I remember when I came on numerous years ago, which is getting close to double numbers now, or double digits. I remember us talking about Plan, Do, Check, Act and some of the training that we did. And again, it made sense to me, but it was like, oh, this is really a formalized way to do it. But it really does make sense of how ISO really ties that in with that.
Right.
So you took us through those clauses. Do all of them fit right into PDCA?
Yeah, actually. And what's more, the diagram in the standard actually takes it a step further.
Okay.
So on the outside of the PDCA cycle, there are inputs and outputs.
Right.
So for inputs, we have, the context of the organization really, but customer requirements, needs and expectations of relevant interested parties, all of which we've talked about on the show.
Yes, we have.
And as far as outputs, we have customer satisfaction, results of the QMS, and products and services.
Right.
So PDCA on its own really means nothing without regarding those inputs and then hopefully having satisfied customers and meeting QMS goals at the outset, right?
So it's not in a thing in and of itself. It's relating to everything.
Yeah, all this is important because I've seen folks get caught up in the use of quality tools for tools' sake. So I don't care if it's PDCA or 8D or Lean 6. The methodology isn't as important as getting the outcomes your organization needs.
Yeah. You can certainly get hung up on the doing of a cycle or a process when you have to see what it's meaning is.
You got to take a step back once in a while. And are you really achieving the goals you want?
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I've learned some stuff. Is there anything else you want to share about the PDCA cycle?
Yeah, I think that just at a high level, PDCA is about understanding your customer requirements and mitigating your risks and then continually improving. And that should sound very familiar to ISO folks.
Absolutely. And you're doing it, again, not just for the sake of doing it. It's just a formalized process that helps you achieve the goals you want.
It gives you structure. Yep.
Yeah, gives you some structure. Well, that's great. Always a pleasure to have you here. Really appreciate you walking us through the PDCA cycle and how it applies to ISO.
Yes, thank you. That was fun.
Absolutely. And we want to thank everyone who's listened to our podcast today. We hope it's been informative for you. Now, if you're looking for more information about Core Business Solutions, how we can help you with ISO certification, cybersecurity, customized training, maybe help you in some of the processes that you need to develop, please email us at info@thecoresolution.com. And you can also visit our website at www.thecoresolution.com. And if you haven't already followed us on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube, please be sure to do so. That way you won't miss the next Quality Hub podcast when it's released next week. Have a great day, everyone.